Robotic Alchemic Drive, or as it's more commonly known as... What? Yep, we are really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, aren't we? If rehashing the same Castlevania review for the 4th time wasn't bad enough, we're now looking at a game so obscure that apart from a random communist furry drawing, only has one piece of fan art on DeviantArt. And now I'm at a point that I'm so desperate to write a joke that I'll apparently use DeviantArt as a gauge of how popular a game is. Where did it all go so wrong for me? March 2012, I guess. So what is Robotic Alchemic Drive? Or RAD for short. Well, it certainly is that. Rad. You take control of a massive mech and use it to punch kaijus in the face. A big thank you to Master J for politely telling me the difference between a kaiju and a mech. Really appreciate it, mate. The control scheme is one of the most brilliantly awful things I've ever had the pleasure of being subjected to in a video game. That line where I said you take control of a massive mech, that was a big stinking lie. What you actually take control of is this guy, or girl, who you use to control the giant mech. It adds a needless layer to the gameplay, where you have to position yourself out of harm's way and in such a position that you can actually see what the hell you're doing. But it's a layer that is just so brilliantly strange that I just can't help but find it charming. There's nothing quite as terrifying as running to get into a better position while in the background you can see your mech being pummeled to death. It also creates some oddly cinematic set pieces, and yeah, sure, most of the time this whole system just ends up with you not being able to see what's going on, but this perfectly complements the absolute clusterfuck of a control scheme the actual giant robot has. You know Skate, where you have to use the thumbstick to do tricks on the skateboard? Well, Rad is kinda similar to that, but instead of doing sick ollies and kickflips down the halfpipe and other skateboarding things such as those, you use the 2 thumbsticks to throw punches with either arm. The D-pad is used to turn the mech's torso, meaning that your only means of moving forward and turning around are assigned to the shoulder buttons. L1 for the left foot, R1 for the right foot, and then you hold down 2 of them to turn. Now you're probably thinking that sounds awful. Don't really have anything to add to that. The giant robot's control of all the grace and delicacy of a boat as you flail your arms around like a little girl. It's super awkward to get used to, obviously because a lot of the time the controls are going to be flipped depending on where you are in relation to where you're piloting the mech. But I'll be damned if it isn't the most goddamn satisfying feeling in the world when you finally align yourself just right and absolutely deck the kaiju in the face. The screen rumbles, buildings collapse, and the mechs ragdoll constantly in hilarious ways. It isn't polished at all, it isn't tight at all, but it is insanely fun, and this game wouldn't be as enjoyable to me if it didn't have this janky ass control scheme. Having a massive robot control like this just feels right, and although there is an easy mode control scheme, if you actually listen to me for once in your lives like I just said, you'd know why I didn't try it out. The robots you control and the ones you fight against all have really cool designs, like they almost look too good to be in this game. This is probably because the robots were designed by Toshihiro Karamoto, who was also the character designer and animation director for Cowboy Bebop. And before I die, if there's one thing I'd like answered for me, it's how the hell did Sandlot manage to get him on board with their campy budget robot game? To start with, you have a choice of 3 mechs. There's your typical all-rounder type, the big heavy one, and then Lyell, the weaker but more mobile one, and whose name I can actually remember because they're the one I played as. I picked them for 2 reasons. One being that they can transform into a plane, and any time not spent wrangling the controls to make my mech move in a straight line is a plus in my books, and it just moves so majestically. The second being that he's the weakest one, and seeing how quickly these battles usually end, I want to squeeze as much fun out of these battles as I can before I'm thrown into another cutscene. The voice acting is just something else. It's that certain level of awful, where you can't quite determine whether or not it's intentional.
This is live from Rome. The city is under attack by a towering humanoid weapon, which suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The weapon appears to be attacking indiscriminately. The city is burning. It's unbelievable. It's like something from out of a movie. Oh, something shot out of it. It blew a building apart.
Now the voice acting and story is hilariously bad, but unfortunately something can only be hilariously bad for so long until it just becomes bad, which really makes me wonder why some of you even still bother to watch me. And in the case of RAD, the moment where I realised it had crossed the point of becoming bad happened about 2 hours in. And it's really a shame that no one making this game had the decency to realise this, because oh my god, it does drag on a bit. The basic premise is that some force in space is causing any living being that comes in contact with it to die, setting up an alternate reality where no human has ever been in space or on the moon, and on the flip side, eliminating any chance of an alien species visiting Earth. A pretty cool premise, or at least it would have been if they didn't call this mysterious killer substance the Nectar Barrier. Yeah, good name guys. However, an alien race known as the Volgara have managed to cross the Nectar Barrier, again, good name, and an organisation known as the Trilenium Committee was set up to develop giant mechs, because for some reason they knew the Volgara were coming, and if they explained why that was, I honestly don't know or care. Now that's really all that was needed. They could have just kept it at that. But no, they had to go and try and interweave an epic story in between it all, with love interests, drama, and a whole lot of other stuff, which maybe would have been interesting had there been any sort of chemistry, or just anything between the characters, but their deliveries are so stiff and cheesy that the only thing between the characters is an awkward pause from where I forgot to advance the dialogue because my brain shut off when they wouldn't stop talking. There's also the annoying obligatory childhood friend character, and the only positive thing I can say about her is that literally in the first 30 seconds of starting the game you can push them in front of an oncoming train. And I hate to be one of those cunts who are all like, well, it actually gets good about 20 hours in, but well, I'm going to be one of those cunts. The game has an awfully sluggish start, with a huge amount of story and dialogue getting in the way of the actual fun, with some of the earlier levels not even having any robot fighting at all. Just long walks across the city, like wow, I'm really having fun guys. But give it about 2 hours and it finds its footing. The missions start quickly, you're given your objective, you can use money to upgrade your mech and purchase new moves, there's normally a bare minimum of cutscenes it subjects you to, and once the battle ends you get tuned in to everyone's favourite news broadcaster, BNN, yes, really, who then tells you how much of the city you destroyed in the process of trying to save the city. Outside of the story mode, there isn't really all that much to do. There's a free play mode where you can replay any missions you've cleared in single player, including the ones where you just walk across the city. Why would I want to replay these? It seems like a waste really. I would have killed for a quick play mode where you just choose the arena, choose the mechs, and then bam, you fight them. No cutscenes, no childhood friend, no bollocks. In fact, now that I write that down, I really wish this game had that. Like, holy crap, why doesn't it have that? And then there's the multiplayer mode, which plays pretty much identically to the single player, but now you only have half the screen to yourself, and you have your friend shouting in your ear complaining about the controls. Rad is rad, but it is also very nearly bad. Wow, I actually hate myself. It walks a fine line between being the best thing ever and being complete and utter trash, like most Sandlot games seem to do. There is a lot that annoys me in this game. I honestly wish it could have just dropped the story entirely if it meant more time could have been spent punching things. But for what it is, it's fun. It's not really anything else but that, and as long as you go in expecting that, then maybe you'll have fun too. And if you don't, well, good thing there's that oncoming train at the start of the first level.